Thank you, Alexandra. I have my coffee here and I'm ready to go.
Excellent. So welcome everyone today to Insider Secrets to a Powerful Professional Presence. My name is Alexandra Stephens and I will be your moderator for today out of the Hiatt Career Center at Brandeis University. I'm so excited to welcome Annie Kipp, who is today's presenter. Annie teaches clients how to optimize their personal presence through her business, Annie Kipp Style. Using a combination of charisma coaching and style consulting, she helps people get the respect and admiration they deserve. She's been called a secret weapon of first impressions, teaching people how to bring their personal brand into focus by giving specific, actionable steps to increase personal presence and charisma. Prior to launching her own business, Annie's worked with branding giants such as Nike and Polo Ralph Lauren. She was an original member of the Nike environmental design team, responsible for visually conveying the company's history and brand story. At Polo, Annie implemented and taught merchandising strategies and reinforced Ralph Lauren's corporate identity and marketing messages in retail environments. Her success comes from her ability to quickly understand the gap between where her clients are and where they want to be. And so we're so excited to have you here, Annie, talking with the Brandeis community about professional presence. So take it away.
Thank you, Alexandra. I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me. The secrets I'm going to share with you today are not a one-size-fits-all Superman cape you can grab when you want to feel powerful. They are actually strategies which will help bring the best parts of you into focus and pave the way for you to develop your own powerful professional presence. I'm going to pull back the curtain today and show you the thinking behind these strategies so you can see why they work and make them authentically your own. When it comes to professional presence, appearance is important, but authenticity is what pulls everything together. It's where the magic happens and it's where your power comes from. Professional presence is not possible without authentic personal presence. Presence is an elusive quality for sure. It's hard to define, yet we know it when we see it. It shows up in the way someone looks, the way they act, and most importantly, we feel it when we're with them. You've probably had moments where you knew you had it, like when you nailed a presentation, or made a great impression, or said just the right thing at the right time. When you're on, everything just seems to flow naturally. You can have more of those on moments. My goal for you today is to shift your thinking about where a powerful professional presence comes from. I can assure you, after years of working with successful executives, that no tips or tricks ever gave anyone powerful presence. Authentic presence comes from within you. I want you to learn what you need to do inside to bring out your own genuine, comfortable confidence, which will naturally give you that presence, which is so powerful and magnetic. You're going to see that anyone can develop powerful professional presence, but it will be much easier if the way you feel inside matches up with the way you look and act on the outside. Over time, without realizing it, we all settle into choices that keep people from seeing us accurately. Life gets busy and we start operating on autopilot, and we might not pay as much attention to the details of our appearance or the little habits we've developed. We've all seen unattractive things in other people that we can't believe they don't see in themselves. Most people don't even realize when they look or behave in a way that is a distraction from who they really are. It's my job to show people how their choices either support or get in the way of people seeing their best qualities. My most successful clients know that the way they look impacts how they feel inside, which impacts how they interact with the world, which defines how they're seen by others. This can become a virtuous cycle or a downward spiral, depending on how much you embrace the process and what you do with the information and feedback you get. Knowing that the way you are seen on the outside matches who you are inside without you having to think about it is what gives you that genuine, comfortable confidence, which is so magnetic. You can get there. You can be the one who people go to bat for and bring onto their team. You can be the one who gets introduced around and invited into important meetings. You can be the one who really connects with the interviewer and gets the job. Today I'm going to give you some real-life examples of how this works, and I'm going to teach you some skills you can use immediately. I'm even going to share about some of the mistakes I've made, which is a little embarrassing, but I think it's informative. I'm going to give you strategies for identifying and clearing away whatever might be distracting other people from seeing your best self. We will talk about how your internal experience produces external results. Stay tuned in along the way because in addition to the 10 tips, I'm going to give you some bonus tips. And at the very end, after we have set up a strong foundation, I'm going to share with you an important counterintuitive truth that may really surprise you. This is the key to a truly powerful professional presence, which so many people miss and don't understand. Some of the topics we talk about today will resonate with you more than others. I'm going to follow a progression that makes sense to me, but really, you can start anywhere and see the benefits. I encourage you to pay attention to where your resistance is, the places where you think you already know things or you dismiss the information, because that will often tell you where your blind spots are. There's a lot of information coming at you today, so if you need clarification or further information about the things we talk about, please feel free to reach out to me on my website after the presentation and keep in touch. I love hearing from listeners, and I'm always happy to answer questions.
Annie, before you go forward, we're just getting a couple messages from folks about your mic. So if you can just talk a little bit more into the mic, it's sounding just a little bit muffled. So we want to make you as clear as possible.
Thank you for that feedback. Good to know. Is that better?
That is better.
Okay, good. All right. Whether you can't get past the interview, or whether you're stuck or invisible at work, or you need a confidence boost, or you just want to feel more like your best self at work, this is the right place to start. I know how hard it is to find your own unique style that helps you stand out in a good way. I know how tempting it is to do the safe thing and blend into the crowd, or just give up and not try at all. You're not the only one. Many of the people I work with didn't see what they were missing until it was pointed out to them. It isn't always comfortable to look at yourself, but once you do, you will be released from what is getting in your way. And the process of clearing away these distractions isn't as complicated as it might sound. In fact, when people do this work, they end up feeling more clear and like their true selves. And they're relieved to know that their personal presentation is in alignment with how they see themselves. The common thread of today's talk is that your internal work shows on the outside. You don't need to change who you are or go to therapy. You just need to figure out what's keeping people from seeing the best you. You can feel sharp and look your best without giving up comfort. You can project confidence without being pretentious. You can fit in and stand out and still be yourself. Today's talk is mainly about professional presence in the workplace, but the strategies you learn here will benefit every area of your life, not just work. Developing a powerful presence sets you up to get more of the connections and relationships as well as the jobs you want. Everything starts here with appearance because humans can't help judging. It's a primal instinct. Did you know it only takes 7 seconds to form an opinion of someone new? Looking at my picture before we started, you probably formed some opinions of me without even realizing it. You may have decided whether I am someone you would want to get to know, whether I am kind or smart or fun, which of course is all true. But if we met in real life, it would be hard for me to shake off whatever impressions you formed in that very brief time, whether they were accurate or not. The human brain is very adept at taking in the details and nuances that tell us about each other, which makes first impressions incredibly important. If you asked a random person, they would probably agree that people are complex and shouldn't be judged on their appearance alone. We all have value and talents and special gifts that no one can possibly imagine until they get to know us. But that's the problem. People have to decide to get to know you to find out about your great qualities, and people decide if you're worth getting to know in less than 7 seconds. Your appearance will always be the gatekeeper to further interaction. I've always been keenly aware of the way things look, and I used to feel really conflicted about it, sort of guilty that I noticed so much, until I learned this. It isn't mean or shallow. It's just protection. You see, your brain's job is to keep you safe, and it will instantly sort through hundreds of visual details to determine whether someone is worth getting to know, whether they're smart or powerful or weak, and so on. Your brain processes visual cues faster than any other type of information. Before you can even say a word, your appearance will make a statement about who you are, which might be unfair, but the impact is often permanent. You can't change the way the human brain works, so you may as well use this to your advantage. The way to do this is to make sure that you appear the way you want to be seen. Knowing this about appearances, you can understand why it's essential to understand the basic expectations of any workplace. Understanding your corporate culture. This is an important first step that you have to consider before you can surprise and delight anyone with the things that are special about you. When you're entering a new office for an interview or starting a new job, do your research. Last month's webinar was called Ace the Interview, and you can find it in the archives. Ingrid Goldblum-Block gave some great tips on preparing for interviews. One of the suggestions was to do research on the job you want, but I also want you to research the corporate culture. I recommend that you find out what is worn on a daily basis by employees and what is worn by the upper level management team. Gather info any way you can, speak to people who have worked there, look at the pictures of their company website, Google them to find out whatever you can. Find out how they see themselves. What are they saying about who they are? What is the image they want to project? Clothes can tell you a lot about what job people do and how they see themselves. In some offices, a suit and tie is expected. In other offices, a suit and tie would seem pretentious, and sandals are perfectly acceptable. I think the most treacherous office to figure out is the office where they say, "We don't care what you wear," because it always matters. Choosing your casual clothes is arguably even more important than choosing your dressy clothes, because anyone can look good dressed up for a few hours, and dressing down means different things to different people. Your appearance is the gatekeeper and a valuable opportunity for you to make a statement about who you are, so use it. Clothing is tribal, meaning clothes convey meaning and give a group identity. This is especially important to keep in mind in an office environment. Similar to the way teams or militaries use uniforms, wearing certain items like a necktie or certain styles of clothing allows you to fit in and be accepted as part of the group. I realize that this is extremely difficult territory to navigate and very subjective. The idea of fitting in yet being yourself is very thorny, so get help if you need it, and really give some thought to what it means in your particular situation. These days, the most powerful people can sometimes wear sneakers and hoodies because they can, but that doesn't mean that you can. Each office is different, and each industry and business culture has unspoken expectations. If you want to get a job in an office, it will be easier if you wear clothes that show you belong there and could be part of their team. You should always dress up for an interview because that conveys respect, but still try to get a sense of what's valued in the office you're entering. Once you've done your research, there are ways to tweak your look to align with their office culture using the details you choose to wear, and we'll talk more about that in tip number 2 and number 5. One of my first jobs out of college was with Nike Design, and I was starstruck by the designers. Not the world-class athletes I got to work with, but the designers. They wore interesting clothes and had individual style that seemed so confident to me. So being the basic, preppy girl that I was, I decided to raise my game and change my look to fit in and stand out. Right away, I got glasses I didn't need, I mixed in vintage clothing, I wore funky shoes, and I cut my hair really short. I fit in and stood out, but the look wasn't really me, so I didn't feel comfortable and confident when I started there. I did what I'm telling you to do, but I went too far, and I forgot to wear what made me feel good, which leads us to tip number 2, wear your power clothing. Make sure your clothes are helping you feel the way you want to feel. Nothing is worse than not feeling like your best self and being overlooked for an opportunity because of something as controllable as your clothing. This is so important. Dressing for the job you want is more than just good advice. The human brain craves logic and reconciliation, so people do tend to believe what they see, and you will be perceived to be as qualified as you look. You will also tend to act as powerfully and confidently as the clothes you are wearing make you feel. Leaders, entertainers, and superheroes across the world know that their clothing gives them a sense of power and makes a statement about who they are long before they speak a word. A little black dress or a black leather jacket are go-to pieces for some people. You can make your basic navy blazer look buttoned down or casual, depending on how you want to feel. A well-tailored business suit or a simple tee can each convey supreme power and confidence. Whatever you put on, remember you're making a statement to yourself as well as to others about your clothes. To have a powerful professional presence, you must deliberately select clothing that makes you look powerful as well as feel powerful. Find clothes that work for you, fit and flatter. This will be different for everyone, but there are certain criteria I recommend you keep in mind. Your clothes must be clean and in good repair and well cared for. It's easy to overlook when your collar starts fraying and the armpits of your shirt have yellowed or the seams of your dress have become shiny from too much pressing. These details may seem small and insignificant, but they're important because other people see the flaws first. It doesn't take much time or money to get a shine on your shoes, but it says so much about your attention to detail. You need to look at your clothes with fresh eyes and even ask close friends for feedback. Make sure that your clothing fits you properly. This is important for appearance as well as comfort, and we will talk about this more in tip number 6. What looked good and fit you a few years ago may not work for you now. Trousers should come to the top of your shoe, collars should not strangle your throat, and your shoes should not make you miserable all day. Your clothing should be a compliment to you, not a distraction to you or others at work. Once you have the basics covered, you can add in details that make you feel strong and powerful, even if no one else can see it. A quality detail can give you confidence. Wearing what feels right is very important. For example, there's a perception that dark colors are seen as stronger and lighter colors are regarded as friendlier. But feeling powerful in your appearance is the most important consideration. We each have certain styles and colors that make us feel strong and sharp, so follow that feeling. Don't force yourself to wear clothes that make you feel less than your best just because they're hanging in your closet. Try new things, but don't follow trends or rules blindly. Make them work for you. Become keenly aware of how your clothes make you feel and build up a wardrobe that supports your goals for how you want to be seen. We're going to take a poll now, Alexandra. I'm curious to hear how people feel. Do you feel powerful and authentic in what you wear to work, and what percentage of the time?
Thanks, Annie. So we did launch our first poll. I'd love for you all to participate. How often do you feel powerful and authentic in what you wear to work? 95% of the time, 70% of the time, about 30%, 10%, or maybe even less than 10%. We're all friends here. We can be honest. And then I'll share the results with all of you in aggregate. So no one will know what you cast your vote in. I'll give you a few more seconds to weigh in. Almost everyone has voted. And then I'm going to go ahead and share the results with all of you. So Annie, it looks like 23% said that they feel confident 95% of the time, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
About half of our listeners are feeling good 70% of the time, 22% about 30% of the time, and then 2% each for 10% and less than 10%. So thank you guys so much for being honest about that.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to hear that we don't have a lot of less than 10%ers. That's a tough place to be. I think this really speaks also to people finding the right place to work so that they can wear what they feel good in. So that makes me happy to hear that. It can always be better, but you know, it's good that it's not low. I have a story here. A woman client who came to me because she was feeling stuck at work. She was a sweetheart and had a funny sense of humor and had recently been divorced. She told me many times, sort of defensively, that she felt very comfortable with herself, even though she was overweight, which was great, but some of the clothes she wore were quite unflattering. She favored big patterns and bold colors, which were not really good with her coloring. Her clothes made her appear harsh, and her defensive tone was making an impression she did not know she was making. It actually kept people from seeing the best parts of her and seeing her potential. By helping her find clothes that made her look and feel more sophisticated, she got a fresh start. She now wears more neutral colors like rose and beige and dusty blue, which make her feel pretty, and her face and eyes are the star of the show, not the clothes. These are not what you would think of as power colors, but they make her look and feel more elegant and refined, which is powerful. So keep that in mind. Tip number 4 is dress consistently. It is perfectly acceptable to wear a signature color palette or style that you know flatters you and makes you feel strong. Find yourself a style that flatters and stick with it, sort of like a uniform, and honor how important it is to know that you look and feel sharp in what you wear. Planning ahead to know that you're going to feel great in your clothes is so valuable. The exact same suit or dress can be purchased in many different colors and fabrics. Dressing consistently, even if it's consistently creative, will make a statement about who you are, and you can make predictability an asset. Your boss can feel confident bringing you in to important meetings and introducing you to clients. Your coworkers can rely on you to make a good impression when you've shown them what to expect on a consistent basis. Tip number 5 is one of my favorites. During the wedding of Prince William and Kate Middleton, I became aware of the fascinator. A fascinator is a hat meant to stand out and get attention. Princess Beatrice wore this one to the wedding and then auctioned it off for charity. A real fascinator hat is not appropriate for the workplace, but I realized that everyone can use a little fascination at work. It's important to know how to stand out in a good way, and with a clear understanding of your office culture, you can allow the visual details of your appearance to tell your unique story. Something subtly special in your appearance distinguishes you from other people and lets people see a little bit more of your personality. Standing out and having your own special style, especially if it is of quality or has a good story attached to it, conveys a strong message of confidence. Building a reputation for being the one who has nice cufflinks or the person who wears great shoes gives your coworkers a positive, interesting way to describe you to people you may not know yet. If you're looking for a job, remember it's important to first look like you belong there and then choose details and pieces that make you feel important and strong. This is where you can begin to show a little bit of your own style and set yourself apart from the competition. A fascinator also makes it easy to connect with people. I have a friend who gets asked about her unique eyeglasses several times a day. She loves telling people how she got them on a trip to Italy with her husband. Trips are a great way to pick up interesting pieces. Especially if you're an introvert or someone who has trouble initiating conversation, you should try out a fascinator. Maybe give it a trial run at a party or at a networking event and see how it works for you. In some cultures, I know looking the same is really emphasized and workers are discouraged from standing out, so this can seem a little disorienting to some people. Getting the help of a stylist to help you figure out what you really like is a fine idea, and lots of stores provide this service for free. If you're new to this, just keep it simple. Maybe try out a different pair of socks or an interesting necklace, and add a pocket square to your suit. As long as you can walk without any trouble, shoes are a great way to make a statement. Jewelry gives you a lot of options and doesn't have to be expensive. We're ready for another question, Alexandra. Where do you get your ideas about what to wear? I'm curious to hear what people have to say.
Great, so we just launched our second poll. So where do you all get your ideas about what to wear? And you can select one or more of the following. And if you are selecting other and want to share what that other is, you can just use the question box in your control panel, and I can share that with the group, some of your suggestions. So we'll give you a few more seconds to weigh in. Do you get it from magazines and TV, the internet, retail stores and salespeople? Do you look to your coworkers or your boss? Or is it something else entirely? We have a few folks weighing in here. Street fashion, they've used a custom tailor, people whose styles I admire. That's cool.
Yeah.
Give you a couple more seconds, and then I'm going to close the poll and share the results with you. So it looks like we are pretty much across the board here, pretty evenly split among all of the different options.
Interesting. All right, great. Thanks everybody for weighing in, that's helpful. I want to tell you a quick story before we wrap up this section and move on. When I started at Ralph Lauren many years ago, I really wanted to fit in and I didn't want to make any mistakes. So I spent some time noticing what all the cool kids were wearing. Typical office attire included crested blazers, jodhpurs, really, and riding boots. The employees literally looked like they rode horses all day. Of course, Ralph was the only one who actually rode horses and lived in the country, but we all tried to project that elegant image, whether we could afford to or not. Most of us couldn't, but we spent our paychecks buying fabulous designer clothes just to blend in. I went from one extreme to the other, standing out in a way that wasn't really me at Nike and blending in to the point of risking being invisible at Ralph Lauren. If I had to do it again, I would have started off and paid less attention to what the people who stood out wore and more attention to what made me feel strong. Clothing doesn't have to be complicated. When you give it a little thought and planning ahead of time, it is much easier to dress in a way that feels right and powerful for you. At this point, we've covered a lot of the basics of dressing and how to use clothes to shape how people see you. There's tons more I can say about this, but we need to keep moving forward. So we're going to shift our focus over to some of the behaviors that can be distractions from people seeing your best qualities. Tip number 6 is settle yourself. People with a powerful professional presence are calm and deliberate. Fidget. They're not scattered or anxious. If you watch leaders and successful executives, they don't have a lot of extraneous physical movement. This is because they are genuinely comfortable and confident inside themselves. The way you appear on the outside comes from the way you are on the inside. Don't think that you can easily hide emotional distress or physical discomfort because your body will give you away if you haven't done the work to manage yourself. There are 10,000 muscles in the face, which makes it almost impossible to control. And as we said, the human brain can pick up on the slightest shift in expression. Even though there are so many combinations of facial muscles, many expressions overlap and can be misread. When your clothes don't fit you properly, or your shoes pinch, or you have a headache, your physical reactions and facial expression may show it and can accidentally be misinterpreted. This is why we talk so much about making sure you pick the right clothes for you. Not only will your feelings show up on your face, but whenever you're uncomfortable for any reason, your brain will search for a way to feel normal again. And this can result in unconscious pacifying behaviors. You've all seen the behaviors that I'm talking about, and you might have your own pet peeves. Things like pen clicking, beard twirling, blinking excessively, tugging at clothes, and other things I don't even want to mention. A friend of mine said I had to include bobbing your knee up and down because that drives her crazy. The list goes on, and in every one of these behaviors is a distraction from who you really are. A couple of years ago, I worked with a client who came to me because he had not been able to land a job and he couldn't figure out why. He was a great guy, handsome, smart as a whip, with a nice personality, but he also admitted that he hadn't had much luck with the ladies either. The first time we met, I could see why right away. Every time he started to speak, he turned his head away and sort of closed his eyes while he was talking. He didn't even realize he was doing it, and it was a small thing, but doing this made him seem uncomfortable and a little reluctant and shifty. It got in the way of people getting to know him and all of his other great qualities. This little habit was a big distraction. I gave him some techniques to help him maintain eye contact, and we addressed the underlying problem of confidence by making sure he was dressed well, not just for business interviews, but also for the casual events where he might meet people. If you find you have some of these distracting behaviors, try to figure out what the underlying cause is. Developing a powerful professional presence requires that you own the messages you send, conscious and unconscious. Perhaps you're distracted easily. Maybe you're shy or nervous, or maybe you're just bored. Pay attention to what's really going on and take charge. Sometimes just identifying and naming your issue to yourself can really help. When you know what you're working with, you can make a plan to manage it. Try to remove the stimulus to do the unwanted behavior. If you pick at your fingernails, perhaps you should treat yourself to a regular manicure so you don't have hangnails to pick at. If you're always touching your hair or your beard, maybe there's a style that's not quite as tempting to play with. Throughout the day, take stock. Do you feel comfortable? Are you trying to ignore anything? Are your clothes comfortable? Is the temperature right for you? Do you have a headache? Know yourself and honor what's really going on. You can also ask for feedback from really close friends. Address underlying issues and get the support you need to settle yourself whenever possible. Once you've become aware of what you are doing without realizing it, you can intentionally replace these behaviors with movements and motions that convey the messages you do want to send. You may have heard of this one. Social psychologist Amy Cuddy describes a move that has gotten a lot of attention lately. I really like it because it literally changes your body chemistry. This is a great way to pull yourself together when things are stressful and help you access a more powerful state of mind. I hope everyone at home will try this because it feels great and we can all use a movement break during this long presentation. Get up if you can, and even if you have to do this sitting down, try it. All you have to do is throw your arms up in the air in victory, like just really throw them up there as if you just won a big race. Really feel the excitement in your muscles and the exhilaration of finally crossing that finish line. Go ahead and pump your fists in the air if you want to and hold that pose for as long as you can. 2 minutes of doing this gets you a 20% increase in testosterone, the dominance hormone that makes you feel like you can take on the world, and a 25% decrease in cortisol, the stress hormone, which makes you feel anxious and worried. I did this right before this presentation and it felt great. If you don't have time for this, you can try this other gesture. It's called the Supreme Steeple. There's a reason that evil villains use this. It's a very powerful move that makes you feel strong by yourself here. Try it and see how you feel. Put your palms together with just your fingertips touching. You do need to be careful doing this around your superiors, actually, because you don't want to seem arrogant, but it's a great way to show that you're confident and you feel like your plan is the right one. Tip number 8 is manage your facial expression. Confident people make more connections because they talk to people they don't know yet. In order to put your powerful personal presence to work, you have to be available and engage with other people. A big part of connecting with other people is looking available. Most people don't even realize how unavailable or how unattractive they appear. To give you a very graphic example of this, I took these selfies of myself. This is a little embarrassing, but I wanted to show you what a big contrast there is between an inward focus and an outward focus. The photo on the left is probably not too different from how you look, waiting in line at Dunkin' Donuts and looking at your phone. Looking at the picture on the left, my eyes are downcast. The corners of my mouth are turned down into a frown. My brow is tight and furrowed. Would you want to talk to me? I don't think so. The picture on the right is more open. It's a pleasant expression and a little friendly. My eyes are brighter, my chin is lifted, my mouth is drawn back just a little, and my face looks more relaxed. You can take pictures of yourself to see what other people are seeing when you're not looking. I would bet that if you did this, you would feel that the more open-faced picture looked more like the real you. In reality, they're both you, but you can control which face shows up more often. There's nothing wrong with intentionally getting into the habit of having a more pleasant facial expression, especially when it's a more accurate reflection of who you are. Practice interacting with confidence and comfort, and have light conversations with strangers. Did you notice someone's shoes? Give them a compliment. If you're both in line, commiserate about the wait. See if you can draw people out in a comfortable way. People crave being seen and heard, and your positive attention will leave a good impression and make you feel more outwardly focused, which is a big part of developing a powerful professional presence. We're ready for another polling question, Alexandra. How often do you have a conversation with someone you don't know? I'm curious.
Yes, I love this question. So we're launching our last poll here. We hope you'll all participate. Which best describes how often you have a conversation with someone you don't know? This could be one of the most dreaded things for people. So hardly ever, a couple times a week, or just about every day. Give you a couple more seconds to weigh in. And then we'll share the results. We're not asking which one you'd prefer, but how often you actually have one. Okay, almost everyone's voted, so we're going to go ahead and close the poll and share those results with you. So it looks like 30% or so, hardly ever, almost half a couple times a week, and about 25% just about every day. Who knows, maybe those folks are in sales, I don't know. But take it away.
Extroverts, yeah, I don't know. That's funny. Thank you very much, everybody. That's great. Here's a bonus tip. Joe Navarro, an ex-FBI agent who's an expert at speed reading people, says that a chin and nose which are pointed up convey confidence and ease. In contrast, a tucked-in chin is the brain's response when a person is in a mode of withdrawal, self-protection, and low confidence. In a world of people tucking their chins in to stare down at their iPhones, just think of how big of an impression you can make just by lifting your head up and looking around. Looking at your phone constantly does not convey a powerful professional presence. You may think keeping busy on your phone makes you appear important, but most people know you're just checking Facebook. Why not stop hiding and stand out from the crowd by holding your head up and surveying your surroundings with a pleasant look on your face? You might even make a new connection. I know this is a long presentation, so thank you all for hanging in there. Let's take a moment to literally refocus ourselves. We're going to go in a new direction here. So far, we've been talking about how to make sure you're seen accurately in your appearance and behavior. And we're going to turn our attention to techniques, which will help you direct your focus. Often we think we're paying attention, and we genuinely mean to be, but we aren't. Life is busy, and we all get distracted. The next strategies will teach people to pay attention to you, as well as make them know that you're paying attention to them. Tip number 9 is slow down. When we smile and talk too quickly, loudly, or eagerly, it's actually an expression of our need to be liked, which makes it essentially a submissive behavior. When you slow down, it is much more powerful. A good place to start is with your greeting of people. The slow smile. Slowing down your smile makes the other person feel seen, appreciated, and liked. And as a result, they develop positive feelings from being around you and inexplicably like you all the more, which is such a nice win-win. The slow smile is actually a more authentic reflection of your feelings. It's adapted from a technique I learned from Leo Lowndes, a communications expert, and here's how it works. The next time you greet someone, maintain that open, pleasant expression on your face a bit longer than you normally do, and count 1, 2 silently in your head before you let your smile out. While keeping eye contact, slowly and deliberately break into your wider grin. The effect of this small, gentle delay is that the other person feels your smile as a warm, special greeting just for them, which is how you want them to feel, right? It isn't always easy for me to remember to let my smile out slowly. My impulse to smile quickly takes over more often than not, but I keep practicing. I had an experience last week which showed me just how effective this technique is. I was waiting to meet a new client at his downtown office. He was delayed, so I was standing in the waiting area looking out the window. We'd never met, but I was expecting him to be a middle-aged fellow, so when I looked up to see a much younger man walking toward me, I was confused. I know I hesitated, and the look on my face was a little reserved because I didn't know if this was the guy I was waiting for or just someone walking through the lobby. When he said hello to me, I broke into a grin and shook his hand. I could see his face and shoulders relax with the warmth of my greeting, and I realized that I had just accidentally pulled off the slow smile. I was genuinely happy to meet this new client, and luckily, I let it show in just the right way. Using the slow smile is a legitimate way to slow yourself down and make sure your friend or colleague feels how glad you are to see them. The whole point of these tips about interacting is to connect. So it's important to attune yourself to how you're coming across to the people around you, both in how you act and in how you speak. This is perfect advice for anyone who wants to project a powerful professional presence. Rushing to fill in all the silences and speaking too much or too fast can make you appear nervous. When you drone on, you actually condition people to tune you out. And this is particularly challenging when you're doing a webinar, let me tell you. This is why we take breaks sometimes and try to keep you engaged with slides. Allowing natural pauses in your conversation allows you to reflect and consider what's being said. Here's a tip for showing that you're listening, which will train people to listen to you as well. It's similar to the slow smile technique. After the other person has finished speaking, keep your eye contact and maintain that engaged, thoughtful expression on your face, and count silently in your head 1, 2, and then respond. This may seem like a long time when you do it, but in reality, it's very quick and effective. Your pause indicates to your conversation partner that you've been giving careful consideration to whatever they just said. Not only does this make the other person know that you're listening, but the pause gives more weight to your response. Taking this time makes whatever you say next seem very carefully considered and focused on what the other person has just said. They will literally be hanging on your words. Although this is a technique you may have to practice, it is actually a more authentic way to engage in conversation because it keeps you focused. Which brings us to our last and most important tip. Focus on other people, because how you focus on others is really the essence of a powerful professional presence. People with a powerful professional presence make other people feel seen and heard and important. This is why bullies, loudmouths, and pompous jerks don't ultimately succeed. They may seem powerful and intimidating at first, but they are all about self-aggrandizing and grabbing attention for themselves. They are inwardly focused, and they don't genuinely connect with other people. People don't feel good around them, and this makes all the difference. You see, most humans are just big babies who want to get their needs met. They don't think about you or care about how other people experience them. When they do think about you, they are most likely thinking about how they feel about themselves when they are around you. They are very inwardly focused. For people who want to develop a powerful professional presence, it is the opposite. Everything we've talked about today is laying the path for you to take a different direction, an outward focus. Knowing that the way you are seen on the outside matches who you are inside without you having to think about it is what gives you that genuine, comfortable confidence which allows you to focus outward. That outward focus is what gives you the power and magnetism you want. The counterintuitive truth I promise to share with you is this. Forgetting about yourself is the key to a powerful professional presence. Yes, you heard that right. Let me say it again because it might seem strange after all the talking we've done about bringing yourself into focus. Forgetting about yourself is the key to projecting a powerful professional presence. This is what sets the most admired professionals and leaders apart. This is what my most successful clients give to their employees and colleagues every day. They are outwardly focused. They have done this work and are so solidly comfortable and confident inside themselves that they can bring out and celebrate the gifts of others. People with a powerful professional presence make other people feel capable and inspired and motivated. They don't try to grab attention for themselves. They are genuinely confident enough to give it away. When you take the focus away from yourself and share the spotlight, you stand out as confident. When you give praise, share credit, and offer sincere congratulations, you stand out as generous and secure. When you are grateful and humble, people will line up to do your bidding. I'm not sure what brought you here today, whether it's a desire to stand out or be appreciated or just feel more confident interviewing. These strategies can help you be the person you want to be. You can use them as a plan for getting where you want to go. To me, this work seems to naturally flow in the order we talked about today, from appearance to behaviors to focus, but you can start anywhere and see the benefits. You should start wherever it seems easiest to you and get a quick win. Having someone help you see your blind spots will allow you to make progress faster, so team up with someone. You can get there fast or slow, but if you don't set yourself in motion, taking intentional, specific steps, you won't move forward. Whether it's picking a fascinator, lifting up your chin, training yourself to slow down, or any of the things we talked about today, I challenge you to pick one of these tips and incorporate it into your life right now, today, so you can begin to see what it's like to have a powerful professional presence. Becoming an exceptional person with a powerful professional presence requires extra effort, but you will take the benefits of this work with you wherever you go and into everything you do. Developing yourself in this way makes you ready for whatever exciting, interesting opportunity is waiting right around the corner for you. You don't need to become someone else, you just need to be more you. No matter where you are in your job or your career, now is the best time to clear away the distractions and build a genuinely confident, powerful professional presence. Thank you, everyone. I am super passionate about this, can you tell? I really want you guys to step into this. So I've committed a limited number of free sessions next week just for the people on this webinar. I want to speak with you individually about whatever your particular challenge is and get you going in the right direction. You can go to this secret page on my website by following this link and enter your name to win a free consultation. Also, if you think this topic would be interesting to your group or community, please reach out to me via my email. I've seen how transformational this work can be, and I am happy to tailor a talk for your particular audience. Thank you again for having me, Alexandra.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Annie. We just went over so much in the last 45 minutes. And we have some excellent questions here that are all really different. And so I hope that we are able to get to as many as we possibly can. So I'm going to ask you them in rapid fire succession, and we will do our best.
Okay.
Okay, great. So the first is an interesting one, and you didn't quite mention anything about height and stature. So this listener is interviewing for leadership positions in her field. She gets to the interview stage based on a strong resume, but can't seem to land the job, and she suspects it's related to being a small woman. Whereas leaders tend to be tall white males, or that's what we hear. How would you suggest women overcome this bias about height and stature? It's a tough one.
Well, that's a combination of how you look and how you act, definitely. We could get on Skype actually and probably talk about this better individually, but I would say making sure that you're dressed in a way that's serious and doesn't kind of play into any of those stereotypes you're afraid of, that, small women are not as serious. You can also dress in a way that lengthens you. So wearing one color, from top to bottom, maybe you need to wear a pantsuit to give you a longer line. There are a lot of things that you can do. Don't wear a dark color and a light color combined, because that is just going to cut you in half. There are a lot of things that you can do to kind of convey with your clothing a more powerful presence, but also we should talk about what kinds of things you're doing in your mannerisms and in your behavior that may be undermining your power when you're interviewing. It's a really interesting thing, and it would be very individual. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk to you individually.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So another question here, this listener tends to shop in retail stores because it's important for them to see themselves in the clothes first. But she likes a classic style and is often disappointed by the abundance of synthetic clothing and bits and bobs, quote unquote, on women's clothing that tend to look frivolous and that take the attention away from her. So any suggestions on alternate places to find understated tailored clothing?
I can totally relate to this. I find it so frustrating that the most elegant, simple clothing is the most expensive, and it's hard to find. I would definitely do my research online and then shop. And I would get used to, if you need more options, get used to shopping online and finding the places that do free shipping and letting you try it on and then ship it back. I know Zappos is great for free shipping. I will often buy 3 pairs of shoes and try them all on to see which ones I like best. So I would definitely do my research online, because you're talking about a visual quality that you want. You want something that's simple, and you can look at these things and see them before you buy them. Stores have a limited number of options. So I would get on the internet and do your research and order things and just return them. That's what I would do.
Great, thank you. Another listener is asking, what would you suggest for getting to a style that you like but aren't sure works for you? So I think this is kind of like an aspirational style. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I know what you mean, because I look around and I admire certain people, or I'll see someone on television that has a great style, and I think it is very, very helpful to make yourself a dream board, kind of an image board. This is what stylists do. They put together looks that appeal to them, and then you will start collecting the pieces that you need to put those looks together. You'll also probably find that you have things in your closet already that you can use to put those looks together. Doing this is also really helpful, because you'll start seeing a pattern to the things that you like. So download the picture from the internet, or, look at magazines and keep a file in your desk so that you can make a board for yourself and really just see it all in one place.
I've also found that sometimes just going into different shops that you're not typically in, different stores, like starting to go to Four Eyes Optical instead of Lens Crafters. They had me try on glasses I never would have picked out for myself, but then I ended up liking them so much more, and they gave me the confidence. The salespeople were like, "Ooh, those look good," and I'm like, "All right, I'll take it."
That's great. Yeah, that's true. If you have time to do that, definitely go and shop. Go down to Newbury Street. Actually, not everybody's here in Boston, but yeah, I would definitely, if you have time, try on things that you haven't tried on before and see how they look on you.
Okay, next question here. So this listener is a designer, and there's definitely a cool factor, quote unquote, but she tries to ignore it because being yourself is cool, even if you're a dork and all that good stuff. But however, sometimes being friendly and open and positive can stand out negatively among snarky and cynical coworkers. So any advice, if we're thinking about others and forgetting about ourselves, but you want to be your authentic self, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that having that warmth is going to trump the snarkiness any day. People really don't like being around snarky people. So keep your warmth, keep your friendliness, and then back it up with serious work, and make sure that you are not engaging, I guess, in the snarkiness. Don't let them turn you into somebody who you're not. That sounds like you have a great quality about you that will, in the long run, that's the kind of thing that people want to be around. So keep it and back it up with good work.
Great, thank you. So this listener has an interesting question. If I don't want to conform to the attire in my organization's culture, should I go all the way as to look for a new job? For example, if this listener only wants to work for an organization that requires professional attire because it sends a higher level of professionalism versus a casual dress code.
Okay, so I need to understand that question. Are they saying that they don't like the dress code, but they want to work for that kind of a place? Is that what?
I think they're saying that if they're vehemently opposed to a dress code at an organization, like, is that worth looking for a new job?
Yeah, I mean, there's a range. There's always a range. Even if it's a really buttoned-down law firm where you have to wear a suit and tie and they have very kind of conservative clothing expectations, you can still have style within that. You can still express yourself, but there's a limit. You can't wear your bohemian stuff probably there. So yeah, you have to kind of determine whether the limit that they have is something that you can live within. And that being said, if you're a lawyer, there are all kinds of different law firms. So there are lawyers who have really gorgeous pinstripe suits, and inside the lining is this wild paisley. So you can do a lot of things with your look to be individual and still meet those expectations that they have. And you're right. Once, if it's too different, I would say you can't be yourself there. So maybe you need to find another place that will appreciate you for who you are.
Thanks, Annie. So you talked about, putting others first and forgetting about yourself when you're thinking about your professional appearance. But how can you forget about yourself when you're trying to remember to count seconds and put your shoulders back and lift your chin up? How do you get to that point?
That's the whole point of what I was saying, is that doing this work is to get you to a point so that it comes to you as second nature, so that you're not having to spend all your time thinking about it. Similar to the way a magician or an athlete or a musician practices their craft, so that when it's performance time, they just do it. They're not thinking about putting one foot in front of another. They are just doing the thing that they do naturally. So I'm suggesting doing some practice and building up this repertoire of things that are kind of refining who you are. figuring out what you're doing that is a distraction and eliminating it one by one so that eventually you don't have to think about this anymore. That's why there are, having a professional, a powerful professional presence is a really rare thing because it takes work to get there. You have to it has to be authentic. You have to have built it up from within. So yeah, it's a pain at first to try to have to do the work, but it's like anything else. Doing the work will get you there, and then you don't have to think about it.
Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left, and we have 4 really great questions I'd love for you to get to.
Okay.
So let's try to do this.
Sure.
So first meetings often happen by phone. Do you have any unique phone introduction recommendations? So obviously personal presence extends beyond being present in front of someone.
Yeah, you know what? This is harder because you don't have as many ways to convey your personality, and you need to make sure that your tone is appropriate and you're interested in what they have to say. It goes back to the same thing of other people like to hear themselves talk. So even though they're interviewing you, helping them feel that you like them and that they are interesting to you is going to reflect well back onto you. So I would say using your tone properly and asking questions that connect you with the person. You can also do a lot of research ahead of time and see if there's anything in this person's profile, their LinkedIn or Facebook, that you can connect with and make that small human connection with them. That's the kind of thing that will help you in a phone interview.
That's a great point. So shifting gears to first greeting people in person, what suggestions do you have for greeting people when you first meet them, in regards to a handshake, anything else to make a strong first impression upon first meeting?
I took this out of this presentation because I didn't have time, but a handshake is a really, really important thing to get right. I will tell you, your hand should be perpendicular to the ground. Don't make it tilted either direction. Make sure your thumb web connects with their thumb web. Practice that firm without crushing kind of grip, and disengage as soon as you feel them disengage. Keep eye contact. Don't mess around with this when you're first meeting someone. Don't put your other hand on their arm or shake too long. A handshake usually lasts about 3 seconds, and you don't want to hold on longer than the other person wants to hold on. Keeping that eye contact. It's something you definitely should practice because this is the beginning and the end, and people remember beginnings and ends of things more than they remember other things. So definitely that warm greeting. You can use your slow smile in this situation. When you first meet someone, you don't have a scowl, you have a pleasant look on your face, and then you break into your warm grin as you're shaking their hand. These are all little things you can do to really connect with someone, but make sure you get that handshake right. Practice with a friend.
Great point. Practicing with a friend is key. I feel like people sometimes don't know their own strength. And so the crush is definitely crushing.
Executives I work with who you would think would know better because they've been doing this their whole lives, still need some feedback. So yeah, get that right. That's an important part.
Okay, so 2 more questions really quickly. So talking about eye contact, how do you feel about taking a few notes during an interview? So it is potentially distracting from eye contact and engagement, but this listener is concerned about keeping on top of all the topics or questions to ask later. So I definitely have my own thoughts about this, but I'm curious to hear yours, Annie.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you have to say, Alexandra. In my opinion, taking notes shows engagement, and you want to make sure that you're having eye contact when you're speaking to someone, but asking permission to take a few notes, I think, shows kind of another level of engagement, which is good. And then making sure that when they are talking and when you're talking, that you're actually looking at them. I think that's important. What were you going to say about it?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I too think that taking notes shows that you are engaged and actually the opposite of being disengaged. And sometimes I've found when I'm interviewing candidates and they're not taking any notes and they don't even open their notebook. Maybe they're too nervous to do so or to get it from their bag. I'm like, are you really listening to what I'm saying? So I think, certainly maintaining eye contact is important in an interview, but so is taking notes, both to let your interviewer know that you're listening to them, but also for your own peace of mind so that you have notes on what questions to ask and what to include in your follow-up thank you and whatnot.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, last question here. I'm on a limited budget. What are some brands you would recommend for women? This listener happens to be on the petite side. So just a quick rattle off of any brands that might be your favorites.
Yeah, you know what? Talbot's has a petite line that it seems pretty extensive, and I know Talbot's can be an expensive brand, but just between you and me, girlfriend to girlfriend, there's an outlet store up in Woburn where they have things really marked down, and they do a lot of sales. So if you can be strategic about when you buy that clothing, that is high quality, great fit, petite. There's a wide range of petite options there, and I think a lot of that is very appropriate for business environments. So that's
Super.
that's where I would head first.
Another listener just chimed in with Jones New York and Ann Taylor as some other suggestions.
Yeah, and if you're on a limited budget, you have to just spend a little bit more time, stalking the sales and using the coupons you find.
Excellent. Well, any last remarks before we just go into our next steps and follow-up, Annie?
I just want to say thank you for everyone who came on today. I know that was a lot of information. It was really intense, and I know it's also kind of a complicated way of going about producing professional presence, but I feel like it's the most authentic and real and comfortable way to do it. So if anybody has questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I look forward to meeting with anybody who's interested in doing a free session, because I think that just a quick conversation can sometimes set you in the right direction. Thanks, Alexandra.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Annie. I really appreciate you spending the last hour with us. If you could just advance to the next slide for me, I'll tell you all about some next steps. First, I hope you'll just take a moment to fill out our satisfaction survey. We do these webinars once a month, every month. And so we can only get better if you tell us how we can get better. So please take a moment to do that. We also hope you'll join us for our next webinar, which is actually next week. We did 2 this month because this is more of a niche topic of breaking into Hollywood, the ins and outs of getting hired for entry-level jobs and internships, which will be really exciting. We have a May webinar as well with Trisha Griffin-Carty, who will be talking about transforming your accomplishments into stories. So be sure to check out our webinar page about that. I also encourage you, networking is a huge part of building your own brand. And so please join us in the Brandeis University Career Connections group on LinkedIn. Here's the link. And also I want to remind you that Brandeis undergrad students and alumni get free career advising appointments through the Hiatt Career Center. And all you have to do is just call this number to schedule it, and we can do them in person, over the phone, or via Skype. I also wanted to share my own contact information with you. So if you could just flip to that final slide there. Please feel free to get in touch with me if you have any feedback about our webinar program, any questions about career services, or getting involved. This has been a wonderful hour on a rainy day here on the Brandeis campus, and we hope you'll tune in online for another webinar later on this month. Thank you, Annie, again, and goodbye to all of you from Brandeis.
Thanks, Alexandra. Bye-bye.